Okay, welcome everyone. We are here to learn another new topic today. So I'm trying something new. I see a lot of the favorites are already here waiting. Welcome. Okay, hold on a sec. Turn off restricted mode. Oh, what I was going to try to do today, because last week I went, besides being live here on YouTube and in my Purpose Driven Christians Facebook group, I also went live on Instagram last week. Well, I was going to try to go live on TikTok today too, but it's saying something about turn off. I don't know, it wants me to turn something off. And I'm not really sure how to do that. So, no, turn off restricted mode. Okay, well, I'll have to figure that out some other time. So never mind. Here we are. uh, okay, so I'm just setting up the Instagram. So now I'm joining you in all these different places. Hey, I see someone joining from my Purpose Driven Christians group on Facebook. Today we're going to talk about something you guys always mention to me when I say, how come you're not going after your dreams? How come you're not running after your purpose? What is stopping you? And the number one answer I always get is fear. So I was thinking about that all this week. How did I overcome that fear? How did I start getting into action and doing the things that I cared about? Good morning. Good morning, Peggy. Good morning. Several of you are joining me from my private Facebook group, Purpose Driven Christians, and all you on Instagram and YouTube. Welcome. So we're going to talk about how to overcome fear and get into action. There are all kinds of fear. Some people have fear of success. Some people have fear of failure. Some people have fear of what are people going to think of me? And all of that needs to be addressed and it needs to be dealt with if you actually want to achieve the things that you want to achieve in life. If you actually want to go for your goals, live your calling, do your purpose, really fulfill your destiny, we have to get over the fear. And I did teach about that last week. And I think I even touched on it the week before. It's such a huge thing. But today I wanted to dedicate all of today's teaching on how to get over that fear and get into action. So, last year I went to, well, I guess it was this year, in June, I went to a conference, and one of the speakers I heard, Dr. Stan Harris, he said, every master was once a mess. So every mess can one day be a master. I tell you guys that because you may go, I'm such a mess. I got all these fears. I don't know if I could ever achieve the things that I was meant to achieve, but I'm telling you, you can. Even if you're the biggest mess right now, you can. And and we cannot even blame the people around us and say, well, the reason I can't is because of this or because of that. I had all those excuses. I was raised poor. I'm from a trailer court. We didn't have much. We had to shop at thrift stores. I got made fun of. I don't have a college degree. I don't, I moved to Hollywood to be an actor. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have the nepotism working for me. Like, there's all these excuses we can make about our environment. But the truth is, if we really are only a product of our environment, then Adam and Eve would have never messed up because they weren't around bad influences. Well, the devil. But they weren't around, they were in a blissful place where everything was perfect, everything was great. There was no sin in the world. There was nothing in their environment that was pulling them in the wrong directions. So we can't even have those excuses saying that, well, because of how I was raised, I'm not able to achieve this or come out on top, or things have been horrendous for me, so I can't have my dreams and my goals. And it's really just a mindset thing, because you could find two people, if you took two separate kids, two separate boys, and they were each raised by drunk, abusive fathers, and that was their environment. One could turn out to be the kindest, most loving, gentle dad, totally there for his kids and choosing not to ever drink alcohol in front of them. The other could turn out to be an abusive drunk, just like his father. And they both could have the same environment and the same excuse. The excuse, the good one could say, of course I'm going to be a good dad because look what I had to deal with. I wanted to show that I would never be like that. I wanted to be everything to my kid that my dad was never to me. And the other would grow up and say the same thing. Well, how could I not be an abusive drunk? That's what I had to deal with. That's what, that's, of course, he's the reason I'm like this. And the other would say, well, he's the reason I'm like this. It's the same environment, but different choices. So for us, getting over this fear, it's like we must control our mind. We have to put the right stuff into our mind in order to have the right stuff come out. Well, fear is just another one of those things that we have to overcome, that we need to train our brain to get over, to get around in order to have the things we want to have in life. Okay, so just taking a quick look at some of the comments. Yes, Facebook, let's see, one of the worst things to deal with. So true. So the thing is, if God tells us to do something, it means we are well able to do it. Remember, God is always with us and he can't lose. So that means we can't fail. Even if it looks like we are, even if it temporarily looks like we are failing, when it looks like you're failing, you have to realize it's just temporary. It's just part of the purpose for what's to come. We lean on these things. We have to lean into sometimes like, God, I don't understand. I don't know why I'm going through this. I don't know why that person left me. I don't know why I'm dealing with this pain right now. I don't understand this diagnosis that's been given to me. There's all these things that come, but we have to lean into trusting God that everything is going to work out on our behalf, that we're going to have favor. Okay? So we can't think we know more than God. So I love, that's that whole pride. That's that whole ego. Yes, we cannot fail. Saw someone comment. So we can't have an ego. I like to say your ego is not your amigo. Yes, we have favor, someone commented. Dr. Stan Harris says the acronym for ego is edging God out. When you're operating in this ego, you are edging God out. You are acting like you know better than he does, the creator of the universe who made all there is to make. You're edging him out. Another acronym he gave for it was everything God opposes. Your ego is everything God opposes. So back to the fear. When we do something or don't do something out of fear or thinking we know better, we have this self-preservation. We want to protect ourselves. We want to think like, that sounds like a noble thing. It sounds like, well, I'm just wanting to protect myself. I'm just wanting to preserve myself and stay safe. If we're doing that in order to not do what God has told us to do, or that in itself is even ego. That is pride, right? And what does Proverbs 16 say? Pride goeth before destruction and a haughty spirit before the fall. But later in verse 20, it says, and he who trusts the Lord, happy is he. If you want to be happy, you have to trust the Lord. Do you know how you feel when you're not doing the things you know God's called you to do? Even if you're saying, oh, it's because I'm scared, it's because I have fear. You're not happy. You're worried. You're a mess. You're like afraid. That's no place to be, but happy is he who trusts the Lord. So I'm going to have to go fast today because I have 8 things that I came up with, 8 things that will help you overcome fear and get into action. So let's get started. So the first thing you need to remember to overcome fear and get into action is we will always have trials in life. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what family you come from, no matter if you're rich or poor, whatever it is, just realize we will always have trials in our life. So whether you're going after your dreams or sitting back being afraid of your dreams, you're still going to have trials. They're still going to come and knock on your door. Whether you're out doing all the scary stuff, leaving your comfort zone, running after everything God's called you to do, or whether you're sitting on the couch all day scrolling through social media, or whether you're out feeding the homeless or you're busy at work, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you could still get that call one day that your loved one is in critical condition. They just had a car wreck. Trials are going to come. So one of the things that you may worry or fear about is something happening if you step out and leave your comfort zone. Well, we're all going to go through that, right? We all go through it. So we need to not complain about the trials of life when they come, because when you complain, you're basically telling God that you don't trust him. And the Apostle Paul says, count it all joy when you run into various trials. Welcome. I see some new people hopping on. Thank you for being here. Those trials that cause us fear, that we're trying to protect ourselves from, may be the very thing that we need to go through to become the person that we need to be, to accomplish what we are called to accomplish, to step into our purpose and our divine destiny. It may be what we need to strengthen us. Like, it's not fun to go to the gym and push heavy weights till we're sore and our muscles rip open and tear, but then they heal up and they're bigger and they're stronger. So we need to go through whatever God deems we need to go through to handle whatever is going to come next. And we have to be ready for that. We have to, let me just read the verse from James 1, 2 through 4. Because I'm saying don't complain. It's beyond not complaining. Here's what they say in the book of James. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. Oh boy, don't we just all love to have patience? But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. Do you hear that? When you go through trials, it forces you to be patient. But here's the good news. The patience will make you complete. You will lack nothing if you have that patience. So if you are trying to keep yourself out of the trials, keep yourself away from everything in the world that could possibly happen, you try to keep yourself in a bubble where you never attempt anything, Scripture says you're going to be lacking. So if you are not in the trials that are producing patience, that means you're incomplete and you're lacking. So we have to appreciate what the trials produce in us. Character, and not we don't love to have loss. We don't love to go through stuff. We don't love hateful comments and judgments that people give us, but you could love what comes from it, right? You could love what you've become in the process of it. When my son Timothy was born 16 weeks early and had a 90% chance of dying and was clinically dead at one point until they revived him, when I was told by doctors and therapists that he would never walk or talk, I did not like that. That trial was not fun. It was a huge testing of my faith. But you know what it produced in me? It produced a fight. It produced a deep faith. It produced me needing to get closer to God, because I didn't have the answers. Everything wasn't going perfectly the way I wanted it to go. And we have to realize John 16:33 says, in this world, you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. The trials aren't just for people who don't love God. We're all going to go through them. Even those of us who've loved God and have dedicated our life to do the things he's called us to do, they're for everyone. Matthew 5 says that ye may be children of the Father which is in heaven. For he makes the sun rise on the evil and the good. So God has the sunrise for the good people and the bad people, but he also sends rain to the just and the unjust. So there you have it. We're all going to get sunshine, but we're all going to get rain too. Now, the devil will also send trials into our life. Sometimes God does, and it's for a beautiful purpose to strengthen us and help us grow. And then sometimes the devil sends us trials because he wants to take us out, because he hates us. And it's not pleasant, and people don't want to hear it. But everything we go through that God allows will eventually have a bigger purpose, and it will turn out. It will turn out good for us. So the second thing we need to be aware of to help us overcome fear and get into action is you must realize that trials make you stronger. Yes. Okay. Here's a great example you guys will all relate to. When you have a baby, how many of you have had a baby? How many of you have seen a baby? Either way, whether you had one or whether you've seen one, they all have to be trained, and they all have to learn to walk, and they all have to learn to chew, right? We can't carry the babies around everywhere for their whole life, and they can't be on milk their whole life. Well, it's the same for us. We can let fear cause us to stay stuck where we don't grow and get stronger. And you know what? A baby has to fall down many, many times before they learn how to walk. And if we allow ourselves to be stuck in fear and not take action because we're afraid of falling down, we're afraid of failing, we're afraid of what other people will think of us, well, what if your baby did the same thing? What if after falling down 65 times, your baby said, you know what? I guess it's not for me. I guess I was never meant to be a walker. I guess God just wants me to crawl my whole life. Maybe I'm not meant to have dreams, those dreams of walking like everyone else. I guess I'm just going to crawl and that's it for me. No, you would tell the baby to keep trying, right? You would tell the baby to keep walking. Now, just so you guys know, I'm not talking about physical, like if someone can't physically walk, you're not going to try to tell someone in a wheelchair, walk, 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 walk. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a mindset. That's what we all need to get right, is our mindset. No matter what the condition of our physical body, we have to have our mindset right. And sometimes we try something 4 or 5 times, and if it doesn't work, we quit. Like, oh, I guess that wasn't meant to be. Do you know how many auditions I had to fail and bomb and not do good before I actually started booking jobs? We can't have that attitude that if it doesn't work the first couple times that we're going to quit. No matter how many times we fail, no matter how many times we fall, if you know that God put a dream in your heart and he gave you a purpose, then you can't give up. And you know what else? Okay, this one's going to sting a little. We can't even complain about it. Ooh, why? Because Philippians 4:4 says, rejoice in the Lord always. When? When do we rejoice when things are going good? No, always. Even when things are going bad. Rejoice in the Lord always. And then it says, and again, I say rejoice. So you got to get to the point that you get strength, you get stronger, and then whatever it is that used to take you out, you now eat that for breakfast. You get to the point where you're like, okay, devil, is that all you got? You're going to grow stronger the more you overcome. I wrote once in one of my poems, I take it as a compliment when Satan picks on me. That loser must be filled with fear that I'll make history. I will not stop no matter what the trials are in my way. He trembles in his nasty boots each time I kneel to pray. And that's where we have to get to. Is that all you got, devil? All right. The third way to overcome fear and get into action is to accept that you're not perfect, and whatever you do or put out or try is not going to be perfect. Okay? The things you create, what you put out into the world is not going to be perfect. And you have to obey God and do the best you can. If He told you to do something, then you have to do it. I love this quote from Marie Forleo. She said, if you're not embarrassed of the first thing you put out, then you waited way too long. I brought an example. I brought some show and tell for that. Okay, so some of you guys know I'm a poet. I've got three published poetry books. Well, the first book I put out, Poetic Prescriptions for Pesky Problems, I put it out in 2008. I later got a coach. I got a coach, a poetry coach, who was the third best Shakespeare teacher in the world. He was my mentor, and he helped me learn about things like scansion and meter and different kinds of rhymes. And then I had another writing coach that helped me learn more about metaphors and how to make the poetry more visual and things like that. Okay, after I learned all these things about how to do better, how to tighten up the poems, say it with less words, better rhyming, visual meter, all that, I got embarrassed of the first thing I put out. I was like, ooh, yeah, this is the stuff I put in here. It helped a lot of people, but I was embarrassed of it. But I put it out. Even though I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't wait till it was perfect. 12 years later, I put out the revised second edition. And in this one, I rewrote every single poem in it. And people thought I was crazy. They're like, why don't you just move on and write the next book? I was like, no, I just felt like I wanted to rewrite everything and tighten it up and tune it in. I don't know if you guys want an example. I could give you an example. Okay. You have to be willing. You have to be willing to do what God's told you to do, even if you don't have all the answers, even if you don't have it all figured out, even if you're putting it out there messy. You're stepping into your calling and being a willing vessel. I'm going to share with you the original, I'm a willing vessel, and then I'll share with you the rewrite. I don't know, maybe you guys will see the difference in what I did compared to what I didn't. I am a willing vessel. I didn't used to be, but now I'll be the first in line to say, God, use me. Not my will, but yours be done. I've said it before, but now it's true, and I can say I want it more and more. I've tried things my own way, and it would really hurt. To see them fail before me never really work. But I just keep trying to carry my heavy loads, do things my own way, and kick against the goads. I have enough bruised feet from going the wrong direction. When I head the right way, I don't need as much protection. I still fall and end up under attack, but now I have peace. I'll head the right direction until this life decease. It was never easy when I did it my own way, but now I have the Lord, come whatever may. And then I learned all the techniques to write better. And then here's the revised edition. You can let me know if you see a difference. And maybe I didn't need to go through all the work. So this is the new one. It's a bit longer. I fleshed it out a little more, tightened up the rhymes. I'm a willing vessel from the second edition. I am a willing vessel now. I didn't used to be, but now I'll be the first in line insisting, God, use me. Lord, not my will, but yours be done. I've said this all before, but now it's true, and I believe I want it more and more. I've pecked at doing things my way. This bird would really hurt to see them fall and flatten out. My failure's hard at work. And yet I load my back and flap. Can't soar with heavy loads. I'm grounded doing things my way. I kick against the goads. My back is broken, feet are bruised when I go my direction. When following your path, I'm safe, for you are my protection. When targeted by hunters, then, I'm camouflaged in peace. I'll fly your way from here on out until my life does cease. No, it was never easy when I did it my own way, but now I have the Lord with me, so come whatever may. So maybe it's not a huge difference. I noticed it. You can type in if you noticed a difference, but that's putting out your stuff before you're ready. So many times we get stuck in analysis paralysis and we don't do that thing God called us to do. We don't put out our works like, well, what if it's not good enough? What if people judge me? Well, I got these rejections, but you don't know who it could help. Even your messy, sloppy first version. I think I've shared with you before. I had a poem in one of these books that I was like, I don't like this. This isn't good. And God said to me, are you putting this book out for yourself or are you putting it out for other people? And I just say, ooh, you're right. I'm not doing it for myself. We got to get that ego out of the way. Angela, thank you so much for the gift. Oh, I so appreciate your super sticker. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much. We have to get out of our own way. And I want to tell you guys the prime example, because some of you right now are waiting till your thing is better. You're waiting till your thing is perfect. You're waiting till everything is as it's supposed to be before you put out your work. Kimberly says the revised poem shows rather than tells. Wonderful. Thank you. So I'm learning. I'm still a work in progress. Every book I put out, I pray, is better than the last one. So here's a great example for you guys who are scared to put your stuff out because it's not perfect yet. Look at the iPhone. The iPhone is a fantastic example of putting things out when they're not perfect. They made the iPhone and we paid $1,000 for it or $800 or however much it was. And then everyone started complaining. This is wrong with it. You need this. It should have this feature. This isn't working. This is glitchy. Like people complained about all this stuff. And then guess what? So then they fixed it and they put out iPhone 2, just like I had the revised edition. And then people found fault with the second edition. Then they made the second edition. They complained about all the things that they didn't like in the second edition. They put out a third edition and people paid $1,000 for that. And then they fixed that with all the complaints. And then they put out a fourth edition and people paid now they're up to like iPhone 15. People made all the complaints, every version, and they just took people's comments and put them into practice and put it out. And guess what? They made money every single time, even when it was not perfect, even when it had errors, even when it had glitches. So what are we waiting for? You don't have to be perfect because it's not about you. It's about God. It's about God and it's about him using us in our imperfect way, in our ordinary way to love people. We may have things wrong with us, but God didn't give us any examples of perfect people in the Bible, right? Moses had a stuttering problem. Gideon was shaking in his boots in a wine press, hiding from his enemies. Rahab was a harlot. David was called a man after God's own heart, even though he was an adulterer and a murderer. Then you've got Saul. Wow, they changed his name to Paul later, but he was murdering Christians. And that's who God said, ooh, let's have him be my front man. I like him. We'll have him write more books of the New Testament than anybody else. So whatever your excuse is, it is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You can't use it as an excuse. You can't say, well, I served prison time, or I failed, or I dropped out of school, or my parents gave me up. They didn't love me. They put me in foster homes. I was abused. I know all of those things are hurtful, and all of those things have left a mark on you. But we can't continue to use that as our excuse not to do anything. It doesn't mean I don't have compassion for what you've been through and God doesn't have compassion for you. But the thing is, I just want you to know it doesn't disqualify you. It doesn't disqualify you from a powerful, positive future that God has for you. As a matter of fact, I think you're more. You can do more for the kingdom of God with all those marks and tarnishing things against you, because now you're relatable to other people. Now you have those cracks in your jars of clay. God can shine through those cracks. You know, when you go to the movies, you root for the underdog. You don't relate to people who are perfect and have everything going for them. Like when you watch the movie Rocky, he's the least, he's the lowest. He's got nothing really going for him, and he's supposed to win this fight with this big, tough, professional fighter dude, and he's just like in a meat locker punching meat. You guys will have to rent Rocky if you don't know what I'm talking about. But you know what? You always vote for the underdog. You're rooting for the underdog. And I was just watching a movie on Pure Flix with my husband, and the main character, like, we're supposed to relate to her and feel bad for her because some of the judgy moms, or one judgy mom, was picking on her, and I was just like, I don't know. I couldn't even feel bad for her because she just looked so perfect. Like, her wardrobe was impeccable, like, in every scene. Like, even when she's supposed to be like in her pajamas, like, her wardrobe was impeccable, her makeup was impeccable, her jewelry was impeccable. She had these immaculate fake eyelashes on. And even when she was crying, I was like, oh, okay. And even at a football game, just dressed immaculate. And I'm like, I don't know, I can't really root for her because even when she was going through something, she didn't even look like a mess. And her whole big, like, main thing was like, she's being picked on because she told her son to tell the truth, and so he wasn't able to play football. And I was like, I don't know, I don't really feel bad for you. Even she's in the scene crying, I'm like, oh, poor baby, you made your son do the right thing. Okay, and someone didn't like it. Okay, I don't know. So last week, I don't know if you guys were on my live. um, my friend Janelle was telling me how great it was. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was a hot mess. I had lipstick on my teeth. My kids were coming in and interrupting me. The dog was barking. And she was like, well, that's what made it relatable. And I was like, yeah, you know what? We like people that are relatable. So I want to let you know, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to lose that last 20 pounds to make a difference in someone's life. You don't have to hate on yourself for having a couple wrinkles on your face, or whatever the excuse is, for not having, for still living in your mom's basement, whatever it is. You don't have to hate on yourself for that, and you can still get going in your purpose and work on your calling. All right. The fourth thing that will help you overcome fear and get into action is realize you have to step out before you are ready. Ooh, your feelings are irrelevant. Obedience is everything. I don't know if you guys have ever read it, but Joyce Myers has this book called Do It Afraid. I haven't read it, but I just like the title. I'm like, good for her putting out that book. You don't wait until the fear is gone. You do it while the fear is there. And the doing of it is what makes the fear subside, not waiting for the fear to subside before you do it. That's what faith and courage is all about. Have you guys ever heard that famous quote from Franklin D. Roosevelt that said, courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something is more important than the fear? So you can go after your dreams and calling that God has given you, or you could make excuses. Which one do you think is going to turn out better for you? We can't be afraid to step out into what God has for us. He is going to strengthen us. He's going to draw us close to Him, and He's going to give you discernment on what to do and what not to do. So we can't be paralyzed, like, oh my gosh, but what if I don't make the right choice? That used to paralyze me. You know what? The reason I know all these things, and the reason I'm teaching you these 8 things, isn't because I'm perfect and have it all together. It's because I've been through every single one of these 8 things, and I had to break through them in order to get where I needed to be, in order to become a best-selling author, to be an actor, to do the things I wanted to do. I had to get over these fears and get into action. Um, Oh, someone in my Facebook group said, yes, last time you were so real that it was great. I was really touched by that. Those of you who are in my Facebook group that are commenting from there, I think there's something you can turn on so it shows your name. I would address you by name if I could see it. So, okay, Justin's got it turned on. I think there's some like lever where you can say who you are, so I can. Thank you, Justin. Yes. So we have to not be paralyzed. We have to just make the right choice that we know how to make in the moment, not be paralyzed by all the choices, but kind of forge ahead. Like, I think this is the right one, and just start heading that direction. And yes, I understand if you have the peace of God and you feel like God is calling you to do something, you just go in the direction that you think you're supposed to go. See, God can't move you and shift you if you're just stuck in park. If you're a car stuck in park in the driveway because you don't want to leave your driveway because you don't know everything in advance, you don't know every single turn you're going to make along the way, that's why you have to trust your GPS. What is your GPS? Your God positioning system. You head out, you may know the first turn out of your driveway, and that may have to be good enough for now. So you want to get out and get into action and let God be the GPS. Let him tell you along the way, turn left here. Watch out. There's an obstacle in the road here. Make a right here. But we can't wait until we know 100% of everything where we're going to go. And you'll learn to hear him. The more you're in the word, the more you spend time with him, the more you recognize his voice. You'll be able to differentiate God's voice from the enemy's voice or from your own thoughts. So, fear. Here we are. So many people are going to be pessimistic. They're going to say, no, 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 don't do that. You shouldn't go this direction. And you may think, oh, but I'm not hearing from God. Listen, God is not hiding from you. He wants to have a conversation with you. He wants to be part of your life. He wants you to count on him. So just do the best you can, heading in the direction you think you're supposed to go, and drive with caution. Don't go 1,000 miles an hour if you're not 100% sure that's where you're supposed to go. Step out of your comfort zone, even if it's taking baby steps, even if it's just going 30 miles an hour and going, okay, God, I think this is where you want me to go. I'm driving cautiously. I'm waiting to hear if you're going to say to turn left or turn right. Okay, so I did a few teachings here before on my YouTube channel because we've on the acronym of fear, and I'm sure you guys have all heard the acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. And so false evidence, okay, so it's not necessarily even real. And then in one of my YouTube videos I talked about, okay, so now what if fear really is the false evidence appearing real? What do we do with it? We have two choices, both acronyms for fear. We can forget everything and run, or we can face everything and rise, right? That's what David did. But before he could face Goliath, he had to face his fear of the lion and the bear, which tried to come after his sheep. So you don't get stronger by running away from the fear. You get stronger by running towards it. Okay? And you rise higher to the level of scary things. All right. So the fifth way to get over fear and get into action is to become who you need to be to do the things you need to do. So what is it in you that you need to become, to change, to do? And what it's going to require of you is making decisions and acting as if you were already that person you wanted to be. Ask yourself, like before you make a decision, to do this number 5, to become who you need to be, whenever something comes up, you need to ask yourself, if I had already arrived, if I had already made it, if I was already at this place, if I already became this person, how would I act? Let me tell you how I put this into practice so maybe you can relate it to something in your life. When I was first acting out in California, I was doing all this acting work for free. They don't like a lot of these new productions, they don't like to pay actors. They like to, that's the last person paid on set. It's like every position will be paid except the actor. So I was doing a lot of free work, and I was taking on a lot of projects that weren't even scripts I liked, weren't even things I cared about, were like not even stuff I would have picked to do if I was at that place. So I had to say to myself, okay, I am not desperate. God called me to be an actor. I don't have to be desperate and take all these parts that are not even good, that I'm embarrassed about the scripts, that they're not good roles. Because early on I thought, well, I have to take everything because you never know. There could be opportunities, or someone could see my work, or I have to get footage for my demo reel, or I could meet someone on set who could help my career. Like all these excuses I made, acting as if I was someone desperate. So I had to stop and I had to ask myself, okay, if I already had arrived, this is 20 years ago, who was popular actors at the time, Julia Roberts and Sandra Bullock. If I already was Julia Roberts or Sandra Bullock, would I be saying yes to these roles? are these roles that they would take. And I had to go, okay, I'm going to start saying no. I had that fear part of me saying, you got to take it. You got to take whatever acting part comes your way because you don't know when the next one will be. You don't know, like that whole FOMO, fear of missing out. Well, if you don't do this, then, we cannot think that way. We cannot be so desperate. And let me give you an example of how I had to rise to the level to become the person I needed to be. Some of you who are on here right now may know me from the show I act on, Dar Man. I've been on that show for over 5 years. It's one of the top shows on YouTube. It's called Dar Man. And earlier this year, back in February, there was a small protest that happened. There was a handful of actors who weren't happy about some things, and they were really going after and attacking my boss. And they were just saying all these, it turned into a real gruesome fight. And it seemed like initially, because they asked me to be part of their protest, it seemed like a couple things they wanted to have, hash out or have talked about. We're like, okay, I could see how this could improve or this could be better. But what it turned into was this awful mudslinging thing where it turned out to not even like be about the couple items that they wanted improved. It turned out to be like they were just slinging mud, saying every awful thing you could imagine, making stuff up, making people believe that we weren't getting paid, that was this awful, cruel, unsafe environment, like all this, like it got so crazy. And I was so upset, I was so grieved, but I was fearful. Like I didn't want to say anything because I was so fearful of what they may say, or they may come after me and they may attack me. I was like, okay, Dar's a big boy, he can stick up for himself. But I had this grieved spirit. I was praying and crying, and I had anxiety and I couldn't sleep. And I felt like God was telling me to make a response video to all these false accusations. And I just like, no, I can't do it. No, not me. And I was crying, and I was like, Lord, no, have somebody else do it. I'm not the brave one. I'm not brave. Don't call me to do it. Like Gideon hiding in the wine press from his enemies. And I was looking in the mirror, and I clearly heard God speak to my heart. And he said, you don't decide who you are. I decide who you are. And I was like, oh no, he's going to make me make the video. And so I did. I was passionate because I have acted in well over 150 other projects before I became part of Darman. So I had been around abusive environments. I had been around unsafe workplaces. I had been forced to do stunts without a pad, flipping onto railroad tracks, running across 6 lanes of traffic in Malibu without them closing off the roads. I had been on the sets where they were yelling, screaming at me, being abusive, where they really didn't pay and you had to hunt them down. I had been on so many sets that were so awful that, like, out of the 150 things I've done, Darman is in the top 3, easily in the top 3. And so when I was hearing all this stuff, I was like, these people are so exaggerating. It is not my experience at all. I'm like, I just need to tell my side of the story. So that's just an example of like how I had to be brave. I had to step out. And yes, then when I did it, they came, the little vultures, they came out and attacked, and they're like, she's lying. She's just a suck up. She's just kissing butt. She's just making this because she's self-serving, or they had all kinds of comments like she doesn't care about not getting the money because she has a husband to take her. She has a house. They were saying all this stuff. Those are the little snarky comments, all the way up to I was getting like, F you, people cussing me out. I wish you were dead. You need to die. Like, just for me speaking about having a good work experience. So that is me stepping out, being brave, becoming the person I needed to be. And you know what? I look back on that now, and I experienced so much growth from that, forcing myself to do the scary things, to move out and not be scared of some bullies that want to tear me down. I just became bolder, and there's something you need to do in your boldness. There's areas you need to step out on, even if it's scary, and you need to stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone and act as if you already are that person you want to become. Do you remember when Samuel went to go anoint who was going to become the new king? And he went to David's house. Well, David's father, they had 12 sons, I think. I don't remember how many. I'm just going to say 12. I could be wrong. He had all these sons, and he pulled out all who he thought was his best sons, the most strapping men, the most intelligent, the sons that had the most going for him. And he didn't even bring David to be considered. Samuel's going through each person, and he's saying, "No, you're not you, not you're not the one. No, not you. This thing, no." And he gets through all of the sons, and then he's so confused because he's like, God sent me here to anoint the new king, but it's none of these sons. Are you sure this is it? Are you sure you don't have any more sons to be considered? The father didn't even cross his mind to have his son David in the lineup to be considered. David was relegated out to watch the sheep. He was outside. He was just a cog in the system, right? He was just watching the sheep, watching the livestock. That was his life. And I want to tell you this because no matter where you are now, God has found you. He has called you. He told me to speak to you today, to tell you this. And when I was just a cog in the system, when I was working in a factory on an assembly line, putting small little electronic parts into motherboards all day long, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, He called me for something more, for something greater. When I was waitressing at a bar, He called me to go deeper. He orchestrated an event for me to be at this place where I was filled with the Holy Spirit. I talk about this more in my You Are Worthy online course. Here's the thing. I want you guys to realize this. He didn't wait until I was a best-selling author, till I was an actress in Hollywood to call me, till I was impacting people. No, He called me in my mess. He called me when I was in the midst of depression. He called me when I hated myself, when I didn't think I could speak in front of anyone publicly, when I was the person who was so panic-ridden and anxiety-ridden. I was at a function gathering once, and I was hiding in the bathroom having a panic attack. He's not calling the people who are perfect. He's calling you. And He's calling you in your mess, just like Gideon, hiding in the wine press from his enemies. You know how the angel approached him? He said, "You mighty man of valor." I don't know where you're hiding, but God is calling you forward, saying, "You mighty one of valor." You don't need to have fear because God is calling you, and He's going to be with you, and He's going to help you become what you need to be. You know how Gideon answered the angel when the angel called him? Oh, he just started complaining. Why is this happening to us? Why did this happen? Oh, why hasn't God brought us out of Egypt? Why has God forsaken us? You know what? Because God's waiting for you. He's waiting for you to step up to the plate and do what you need to do. He's waiting for you to become who you need to be, to step out and do those things that scare you. Go in the strength that you have, He says. When I stepped out and I made that video, I got a lot of hate, but I had so many people sending me private messages who worked there. Thank you for saying all those things. I was afraid to say it. I was afraid to be attacked. I was afraid of the panic attacks. I feel the same way. I had tons of people thanking me for doing that scary thing because they're like, you said all the things that I was thinking, but I was afraid to say. What if that's you? What if you're supposed to go and be the forerunner? What if you're supposed to go out and do and say the scary thing that goes against the louder narrative? There's going to be a louder narrative, and you may be called to speak against it. I don't know. So You may not have everything you need to have, but what did the angel of the Lord say to Gideon? He said, go in the strength that you have, not wait till you get the strength, wait till you get the faith, wait till you become this strong person. He says, no, you go in the strength that you have. Gideon still made excuses. How can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest, and I am the youngest and weakest in my, like, here's the thing. God knows the end from the beginning. So I know you may be scared. I know you may be lowly. You may be in this, you may feel like you're in this pathetic state, but God sees your future and God knows what you will become. So Gideon told the angel, yeah, I'm the least, I'm the lowest. And there's the dog again. God didn't say to him, get it all together first. You get your poop in a group, get it all together. You rise in the ranks. You get stronger. You get that degree. You marry that perfect spouse. You get that 800 credit score. You put on 15 pounds of muscle to defeat your enemies. Then I will call you. Then we can do something together. No, he said, go in the strength that you have. And I want to remind you, God is calling you today. And all you need to do is go in the strength that you have and make choices as if you've already arrived, as if you're already brave. Do the things as if you were already that person you want to be, as if you were already at the top of your game, and watch how that shifts and moves things for you. Number 6. Okay, the 6th way to overcome fear and get into action is stop expecting that bad things are going to happen. Okay, yes, we're going to have trials, but don't get out your binoculars and start looking. Where's the bad? Is the bad coming? Is it coming today? Is it around the corner? Where's the bad going to? Stop looking for it just because bad things have happened in the past. So Dr. Stan Harris says the acronym for fear is former experiences affecting reality. I see this so many times with my coaching clients because they did something in the past, something happened to them, some former experience. It affects where they are now. Me too. But we have to remember God's mercies are new every morning. And just because something happened in the past or somebody did something or said something to us in the past, that doesn't mean it's going to happen to us now. And we make such a huge, big deal out of it. And when we're looking for it, we're going to find it. So stop looking for the bad stuff to happen. Don't be so drawn to it that very fear pulls it towards you. We don't want that. We don't want that to be pulling towards us. So don't be focusing on it, looking everywhere for the bad stuff to happen, turning over every rock. Is this where the bad is? Is this where the enemy's going to come from? Is this where I'm going to fail? You don't want to be focused on the things that you don't want. You don't want to be expecting bad stuff to happen all the time, right? Because the expect means to regard something as likely to happen, to believe it will arrive soon, to look for something that is rightly due. Stop looking for it. Do you know Job? Job in the Bible had all that horrible stuff happen to him. He lost all his money, all his cattle, all his livestock. The house collapsed and he lost all 10 of his children. He got sick boils, painful boils all over his body. Do you know what he said? He said, the thing which I had feared greatly has come upon me. He was looking for it. He was fearing it. Every day he might have been like, I hope something never happens to my kids. I hope I don't get sick. I hope I don't lose everything. He was fearing it. He wouldn't stop obsessing about it. That's why it says that thing which I greatly feared has come upon me. You need to do the opposite. You need to find scriptures about how good is going to come to pass, how good things are going to happen. Because Proverbs 23 tells us, 23:7 says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Whatever you think are the things you're going to attract. You know what? As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. I actually wrote in my Poetic Prescriptions for Pesky Problems a poem called You Become What You Thought You'd Be. This is important. You are going to become what you think you'll be. So don't keep thinking, I'm going to be a failure, this isn't going to work, because you're going to become what you're obsessing about. The thoughts inside your heart and you are one. Whatever thoughts you think, you will become. There is a purpose. God has not forgot his promise. though your life appears to rot. For dreams to come, sometimes it's up to us. We must surrender, offer up our trust. Faith is the substance now of things hoped for. That faith will manifest your dreams for more. According to your faith, be it unto you. You just need a little. A mustard seed will do. You have all authority. You have nothing to prove. Command those mountains without doubt. They'll move. You're given here dominion over the earth. God cares for the sparrows. Think how much more you're worth. He'll not forsake or leave you to the end. More than a brother, he's a closer friend. You will accomplish what you dream and more. God's word believed will bathe you to the core. Reflect on his word both night and day, till all contrary thoughts have gone away. Now ask, and you shall receive. Knock to find, but most imperative, renew your mind. Since as a man thinks in his heart, so's he. You can become what you thought you'd be. That's the battle cry. You will become what you thought you'd be. So how much better is it going to be for you to start believing you can achieve what you want to achieve? Matthew 17 says, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed. I had a mustard seed I was going to show you guys, and now I can't find it because it's so stinking small. Oh, was this it? No. Somewhere on my piles of paper, a mustard seed is so tiny, it kind of looks like the dot after you put a period, just like a little dot with the tip of your pen. A mustard seed is all the faith that we need. And we're called in Romans 4:17 to call those things that be not as though they were. And I know sometimes you guys want to be like, but I'm a realist. I'm not going to say things that aren't true. Well, how's that working for you? You're saying, well, I'm a realist. I would be lying if I said that everything is turning out great. Okay, so I guess you want to talk about the things that you don't like and stay stuck there longer. Listen, that's not what God did. God called those things that be not as though they were. He was speaking the end result. He was speaking of what he wanted to have happen. So how can we do that? Well, because God knows the end from the beginning. He knows what's going to happen before we do. And he knows how everything is going to turn out, right? We know Romans 8:28. All things work together for those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. He spoke the end result. And I love Myron Golden gives this great example of a movie versus a snapshot. When life for us right now is playing out as a movie, we don't know what's going to happen next. We and he used this example for God. Everything is a snapshot because he knows the end from the beginning. He knows what's going to happen before he knows how everything's all going to turn out. So for him, it's like a snapshot. He can see everything. He knows it's all going to turn out fine. But we're like, if you wrote, direct, acted in, shot a movie, and you know how it's all going to turn out, but you're in the movie theater with people watching it who don't know. They're at the edge of the seat when you get to the edge of the cliff, and they're like, oh my God, we're going to fall off the cliff. Oh, no, no. They're like, but you're sitting back confident because you know how something's going to swoop in and save you and pull the main character back, and you know how this is all going to happen. You're confident. You're sitting back. Well, that's how God is. You're like, you're going through this trial. You're like, God, I'm about to fall off a cliff. How come you're not doing anything? Can't you see? I'm about to die. And God's just sitting back like, oh, just wait. It's about to get good. That's what I want to tell you guys. It's about to get God has a history of using the least likely. And that could be you. You could be the person that nobody picked in gym class, that nobody wanted on their dodgeball team. You could be the equivalent of the broken down, slow, someone with 2 left feet. But John tells us in 14:12, even greater works will you do because I go to my Father. Acts, Romans, Ephesians shows us that Jesus is at the right hand of the Father. Romans says he's constantly interceding for us. He is our advocate. He's going to the Father. Hebrews 7:25 says Jesus always lives to make intercession for us. Do you hear that? His very being and purpose right now is that he lives to make intercession for us. What is intercession? It's the act of intervening on behalf of another person. He's there just praying for you and making sure you'll win and making sure everything will turn out right. Guys, I had 2 more things I was going to share, but we only got through 6 today, and my time is up. So join me next week to hear what the other 2 things are that can help you overcome fear and get into action. Let me know if this was helpful. Did you guys find these 6 tips we've shared so far helpful? What are you going to do differently? How are you going to act differently now that you know these 6 things could be changed to keep you out of fear, to keep you moving in action? Are you going to change things? Are you going to do something different? Did you get something out of this that you can apply this week? Yes, Justin says yes. Okay, awesome. Yes, it will. I'm seeing all the comments from Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I hope this was a blessing. Listen to it again if you need to, whenever you start to feel those fears, right? We talked about we're going to always have trials, that your trials are going to make you stronger, that you don't have to be perfect and you don't have to put out work that's perfect, that you're going to have to step out before you're ready, that you're going to have to become the person you need to be to do the things you need to do, and that we need to stop expecting bad things to happen. And I will share the other 2 next week. Love you guys. So glad you were able to join me. We'll see you here next week. Bye.